من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية أمير المؤمنين والأئمة المعصومين عليهم السلام والحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من يوم عداوتهم إلى يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله عز وجل في كتابه الحكيم وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I begin in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no doubt that it's due to His kindness and generosity that He provides us opportunities such as these where we gather in remembrance of Him tabaraka wa ta'ala. Inshallah today and next Thursday before the Fatima programs we will be doing tafsir or explanation of the last two surahs of the Holy Quran, Surah al-Falaq and Surah al-Nas. We'll begin with Falaq today inshallah and do Nas next Thursday if God gives us enough life inshallah. These two surahs of the Holy Quran are called al-Maw'idhatain. They are called al-Maw'idhatain because within these two surahs what we are doing is called isti'adha. We are doing isti'adha. Isti'adha comes from the root word ayn waw dha, iwadha, and it means to seek the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against different types of evils. Isti'adha is a major component of our religion. This is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us to do in the Holy Quran, and the different conjugations of the word forming from ayn waw dha appears in the Holy Quran about 17 times. So the most famous examples of isti'adha are when we say قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ or قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ. But other examples mentioned in the Holy Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for example says فَإِذَا قَرَأْتَ الْقُرْآنِ فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ. He says when you recite the Holy Quran, seek the protection of Allah against
only 3 minutes
Shaitan
of your
who is
time.
Rajim, who is cursed. This is why whenever we recite the Holy Quran, we begin with A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim. This is not arbitrarily done. It is actually a command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that whenever you recite the Quran, seek the protection of Him from Shaitan. Obviously, the concept of isti'adha means to seek the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't need to go into detail of that. It is the most obvious answer. Who else would we seek protection of better than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So we are seeking God's protection against what? The number one thing that we seek the protection of God from is shaitan. Yeah? And not just from the Iblis perspective, anything which is shaitans. As we know, shaitan, we have talked about this numerous times, comes from the root word shatana. Shatana means that which is harmful to us. So shaitan really means that being, whether it is from the jinn or mankind or any other creation, which is harmful for us, is called shaitan. This is why sometimes our friends are actually shaitan, because they actually cause harm to us and take us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So shaitan is the key example we find in the Holy Quran, in hadith, of who we should be seeking protection against. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Fussilat, verse number 36, وَإِمَّا يَنْزَغَنَّكَ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ نَزْغٌ فَاسْتَعِذْ بِاللَّهِ إِنَّهُ هُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ. He says that should a temptation from shaitan disturb you or come to you, seek the protection of Allah. Indeed, He is all hearing and all knowing. So whenever a temptation passes through our minds, whenever a whisper passes through our hearts, we are told at this moment to seek the protection of Allah, to make sure that it is not a devilish or satanic whisper that has passed through. Yeah. See, when we talk about inspiration, when you study Quranic sciences, ulumul Quran, there are two types of revelations that come down. One is called wahi, and the second is called ilham. Wahi is that which is reserved for anbiya only. Only the prophets get wahi. Any other form of inspiration that comes, whether it be to imams, whether it be to regular human beings like you and I, it is the form of ilham. Yeah? The difference between the two is that wahi is the source of that inspiration is known to the prophets. That means there is never a time when the prophet receives some type of guidance or inspiration that he is confused. Where is this coming from? While you and I, we may receive inspirations all the time. Yeah? When we ponder over a subject for a long time, we may be inspired to the answer of that subject. When we reflect, we may be inspired. Sometimes when we pray, we are inspired with an answer, for example. However, sometimes we are not sure where the source of that inspiration is coming from. It could be divine or it could be satanic. Yeah? This is why whenever a thought or a temptation passes through our mind, God says, seek the protection of me, and if it is from me, it will guide you. If not, it will go away, inshallah, the way it should. Furthermore, we are taught in dua as well, isn't it? In the dua of Asr, we seek the protection of God from numerous things. Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min nafsin لا تشبع ومن قلب لا يخشى ومن علم لا ينفع. This is all isti'adha we are doing. For those who have memorized the dua of Asr, we said, Ya Allah, I seek your protection from du'as which don't go up to you, from salah which does not rise to you, from knowledge which does not benefit me. These are all things that we should be seeking God's protection against. Likewise, anything which causes us harm. Right? So sometimes in dua, for example, we have Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min adhabil qabr. Yeah? We say, oh Allah, I seek your protection from the adhab, from the punishment of the grave. So anything that brings within us fear, we should be doing isti'adha. It is a part and parcel of our religion. In Surah al-Falaq and in Surah al-Nas, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is expanding the list of things that we should be seeking protection from. Yeah? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these surah are mentioning 3 in Surah al-Falaq and a 4th in Surah al-Nas that human beings should constantly be worried about and that they should be seeking the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against. Inshallah, today we'll be discussing al-Falaq, and to next week, inshallah, as we said, we will be discussing an-Nas. Surah al-Falaq, according to most narrations and traditions, is a Makki surah. Yani it was revealed in Makkah. And the reason for that is because of the tone of the surah, because of the length of the surah as well. Generally, when we try to look at or understand whether a verse is Makki or Madani, or a surah is Makki or Madani, look at the length of the surah. Normally, Makki surahs were much shorter and direct and to the point, while Madani surahs are the longer surahs of the Quran, like Baqarah and Ali Imran are 2 key examples of Madani surahs. So generally, it is accepted that this is a Makki surah, revealed in Makkah. As far as the reason of revelation, the cause, the sabab al-nuzul, there is a tradition which says, and now this tradition is reported as the final chain of narrator by either Ibn Abbas or it comes from Aisha. And what they say is that this particular 2 surahs were revealed when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was afflicted by black magic through the hands of the Jews. Yeah? So the Prophet had been afflicted by black magic, and at this time by the Jews, and at this time Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed Surah al-Maw'idhatan, yeah, the two things that he should be seeking protection from to get rid of the black magic. We know that the surahs of Falaq and Nas do talk about a little bit about black magic or sorcery, and we'll discuss that today inshallah. There is a problem with this occasion of revelation. Right? Not from the fact who it's coming from, yeah? That's another problem. But the problem with this particular chain or this particular reason of revelation is that after it has been established that it is a Makki surah, how is it possible that it was the Jews who had afflicted him with black magic when the relationship with the Jews happened where? In Medina, yeah? So this is the key thing that it says that this cannot be a true reason of revelation because it is a Makki surah and the relationship with the Prophet and his dealings with the Jews happened in Medina, so this is not possible for this to have happened. Furthermore, from an aqli, from an intellectual point of view, if the Jews or if anybody could have afflicted the Prophet with black magic, they could have easily stopped the mission of the Prophet, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, if he is going to be afflicted by anybody with anything, somebody blowing on a knot and it afflicts the Prophet, that means at any time they could have stopped the entire mission and the mission would not have continued the way it has till today. These type of hadith are known as Isra'iliyat. Yeah? Isra'iliyat are traditions which have come by Jews and Christians into the books of Muslims, by people who were Jews and Christians at one time and converted to Islam. These type of traditions are everywhere. Yeah, everywhere. And when you can tell that these are Isra'iliyat traditions because they will always try to paint the Prophet in a negative manner. Yeah? Because they want to lower the status of the Prophet. Right? And of course, many of these traditions have been accepted by the general Muslimin, but our books have been very careful to weed out these hadith. By looking at the content of the hadith and who narrated the hadith. There are certain names that we have in history who are known to have brought Isra'iliyat traditions, and we generally tend to ignore or reject these hadith. So this sabab of nuzul, the sababun nuzul for this particular surah is not accepted as it comes to us in traditions because it contradicts the intellect and it contradicts the time frame of when it could have happened. As far as the virtues of Surah al-Falaq and Surah al-Nas are concerned, we get many traditions. For example, عن النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم قال اللهم صل على Muhammad. He says to one of his companions, ألا أعلمك سورتين هما أفضل سور القرآن. قلت بلى يا رسول الله. He says to one of his companions, should I tell you about two surahs which are the best surahs in the Holy Quran? So he says, yes, Ya Rasulullah, of course, Ya Rasulullah, tell us. فَعَلَّمَنِي الْمَوْعِظَتَيْن. Yeah, and he taught me the last two surahs, al-Falaq and an-Nas. According to the Prophet and this tradition, the best surahs revealed in the Quran. Now we'll come to that. What does that mean? He says, ثُمَّ قَرَعَ بِهِمَا فِي صَلَاةِ الْغَدَاةِ وَقَالَ لِي اقْرَأْهُمَا كُلَّمَا قُمْتُ وَنِمْتُ. Yeah? He says that he recited this salah, these two surahs in his afternoon prayers, and then he told me that recite these surahs as often as possible. Whenever you stand and go to sleep, recite these two surahs, as it does ward off different types of evil. Now if you remember when we did Tafsir, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, about the first 2 verses of the Quran, right? And the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, said the same thing. These are the 2 best verses in the Quran. He said the same thing about Ayat al-Kursi. I think that A, it's a form of motivation for us. B, every verse is the best verse as it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there's no contradiction in saying that, is it? That these are the best verses. No, these are the best verses. Every time they are revealed, it is the best verse because it is the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As far as the effect of it warding off evil, it's not done by a simple or a mere movement of the tongue. Yeah? That means I can recite al-Falaq and Nas until I'm blue in the face, but if I don't understand the content of the surah, if I don't live my life according to the ethos of the surah, it is not going to have that effect on me. right? And the same thing applies for any of the surahs in which the fadl or the virtue has been made so high that it has to be a form of life that I lead which will take me to the benefits of that particular surah. So let's come to the surah. From the very beginning of the surah, we understand that the address of the surah is to the Prophet. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Qul, Qul means say. Say who? Say, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So the command is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him and his family, to say. Say what? A'udhu bi rabbil falaq. Okay? So it's not that necessarily the Prophet needed to seek protection from these things, though of course it never harms coming from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it does not mean that because he was saying these things, he himself was personally affected by these, right? But it does mean as a Prophet was the role model and is the role model for each and every one of us, if he is being commanded to do so, in other words, we are being commanded to do so. Yeah? So the recitation of these surahs are really a command for us to constantly recite them. قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ. Say, I seek the protection of the Lord of Falaq. Yeah? Now what is Falaq? Falaq is translated as daybreak, yeah, or dawn. So when you look at most translations of the Quran, it says, say, I seek the protection of the Lord of the daybreak, yani fajr or dawn. Now when we look at the Arabic dictionary for falaq, falaq literally means to split or to break open or apart. Yeah? The reason dawn is known as falaq because in dawn light is breaking apart darkness. Yeah? Darkness is breaking through, light is breaking through darkness. This is why dawn is known as falaq. Furthermore, other exegetes have said that falaq doesn't only apply to the dawn, it applies to the creation of every created being. Right? Because every created being at one time was in darkness and it broke through light. Yeah? Whether it was in the form of an egg and it broke through, whether it was in the form of a seed and it broke through, or whether it was in the womb of the mother and it came out. These are all examples of living in darkness at one time and then breaking out or coming out. So when we say these complete definition, what we are saying is, say, I seek the protection of all the things which are created, in other words, not just the dawn. Right? The dawn represents something new. Right? Why should I seek protection from the dawn? Or why should I seek protection from all things created? Min sharri ma khalaq. Yeah? From the evil of what He has created. Now this is interesting. Right? Many people have taken this to mean that God has created evil. Right? That's what it sounds like. Min sharri ma khalaq. And even if you look at the translations, it says from the evil of what He has created. Now, it does not mean that God has created evil. Yeah, it does not, because it then would contradict other verses of the Quran. So for example, when God says, Alladhi ahsana kulla shay'in khalaqa, the one who has made good everything that He created. How can the one who has made good everything that He created create evil then and then say it is good as well? Right? So min sharri ma khalaq is actually referring to those creations who have the capacity to do good but rather choose to do evil. They choose to do bad. See, we as creation have a choice, don't we? In every facet of life. I can say good things or I can say bad things. I can do good things or I can do evil things. Therefore, what we are seeking the protection of God from are the evil tendencies that exist within His creation. Okay? So this is what we are seeking the protection of God from. So this is the first thing. And then, وَمِن شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبَ. And from the evil of the ghasiq when it waqabs. Okay? Ghasiq, according to Ar-Raghib in the Arabic dictionary, is the intense darkness of night which appears at midnight or in the middle of the night. Not necessarily 12 as midnight, muntasaful layl, half of the night, when it's pitch dark. Yeah, this is what ghasiq means. Al-waqab Yeah, so from the evil of the dark night, that's true, when it waqabs. Okay? It's an interesting surah. Yeah? I may not be making it sound interesting, but from the depths of it, it's amazing how something so small can have such an intricate and powerful hidden meaning behind it. So what is waqab? Waqab is a hole or a ditch. Okay? Something which is dug up, yeah? Something which is hidden, you can say, is considered to be waqab. Now, in this particular verse, the verbal tense of waqab is used, waqaba. Yeah? What waqaba means is to enter the hole. So not only a hole, al-waqab is the hole. Okay? Waqaba means to enter into the hole. So what this particular verse is saying is very interesting. What it's saying is that, Ya Allah, I seek your protection from the creatures, whether they are animals or human beings, who come out in the middle of the night and have created their holes for me to fall in. I seek your protection from them. Yeah? It doesn't just mean, oh Allah, I seek your protection from the dark night when it settles. It actually is talking about those human beings. You know, evil happens when? In the dark, doesn't it? Yeah? The thieves come out at night, they say. Nothing good happens. Didn't our mothers always tell us this? Yeah? Nothing good happens at night when you go out. So this type of mentality or thinking is still true, right? That animals, wild animals, will come out at night. You look at predators. Most predators will come out at night to go and hunt for their prey. Likewise, human beings who are predators will come out at night. So what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, or that what we are saying to Him is that, Ya Allah, I seek your protection against these creations of yours who come out in the middle of the night and have set their traps for me to fall into. So this is what this third verse of the surah means. وَمِن شَرِّ غَاسِقٍ إِذَا وَقَبْ. Keep that in mind next time you read it. You know, when we read this particular surah, understanding what is meant by the surah, it has a humongous effect on us, right? So the first the first one is talking about the evil of the daybreak, yani the creation who has tendency of doing evil. And then of course those who come out at night and do evil. So now we've covered both fields. We've covered the morning and we've covered the night as well. And then we say وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ. Nafatha literally means to spit. Yeah? It is a light spit that is done with the mouth. And I don't want to demonstrate it from the mimbar, right? But it is a light spit that is done. And because this spit is emitted or originated from the mouth, nafatha also means to blow on something. Yeah? I think we can imagine this, yeah? Imagine somebody who has some beads in their hand and they're reciting something and they're spitting on each bead as they recite it. You can picture it? Yeah? I can picture it. Yeah? This is what this means. Now, so it means literally nafatha. وَمِن شَرِّ النَّفَّاثَاتِ فِي الْعُقَدِ. And from the evil of those who blow on knots is how it's translated. Yeah, who blow on knots. Now this is literally, somebody thinks of you, they tie a knot, they blow an evil intention into it, thinking that it's going to affect you or transfer into you as well. Now what's interesting about the word nafathat is that nafatha means to blow, right? Nafathat, now the tense that is being used, the verbal tense that is being used here represents a plural feminine tense. Yeah? Nafathat refers to a plural, yani not one, not two, but more than three and more, and it's a feminine tense. Therefore, most exegetes have taken this to mean what? Witches who blow on knots. Yeah? Evil witches who blow on knots. This is why if you read some of the translations, like Qara'i's translation, if I'm not mistaken, he says, and from the evil of the witches who blow on knots. Okay? What is this verse referring to? Yeah? This verse now could be referring to one of two things. The first thing that it could be referring to is black magic and sorcery. Yeah? The people who actually do black magic. You know, we say evil eye, nazar. We say all of these words for these type of things. There is a possibility that this particular verse is talking about that. However, very interestingly, the exegetes say there's no proof of that. Yeah? There is no proof from hadith, there is no other proof that says that this particular verse is talking about black magic in that sense. Rather, if you are interested in the subject of sorcery and black magic, it appears in Surah Al-Baqarah verses 102 and 103. And inshallah one day we'll do tafsir of that, because it'd be interesting to know what the Islamic perspective on black magic and sorcery is. The other meaning that we get from this verse, and from the evil of those who blow on knots, what it says is that this is referring to the evil temptation that one puts in the hearts of others, causing them to abandon their faith and their belief and their motivation and determination. Yeah? Somebody comes meaning you well, but in their hearts they mean you evil, and they try to distract you from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They try to distract you from the path of haqq. Yeah? This is the evil from those who blow on knots. That means they are blowing into your spirit. Yeah? And they are actually driving you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Mufassirin say that this is more possible of a meaning than the sorcery or black magic that they're talking about. The last is وَمِن شَرِّ حَاسِدٍ إِذَا حَسَدٍ. And from the evil of the jealous ones when he is jealous. Hasad is a topic on its own. Yeah? But the fact that hasad is mentioned alongside those who want to tempt you away from the right path, and from the fact that it is mentioned amongst those who are come out at night and plot and try to take us away from haqq, shows us the evil of jealousy. Right? And inshallah, jealousy will be the next big topic that we tackle. From the very creation of human beings, we said that there were three main characteristics that were established. The first one was takabbur, and that was exhibited by Iblis. Then came al-hirs, which was attributed or exhibited by Nabi Adam alayhi salam. And then there was hasad. Yeah, which was attributed by the son of Adam when he killed his brother. So this is the third major sin that we will be discussing inshallah. But that's going to be a discussion or a topic on its own. So as a conclusion, about this surah, we understand here that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned three of the most dangerous forms of vice and corruption. Yeah, that can harm me. So not necessarily a quality that I may have. The other things that we've talked about are qualities that I can have, which will take me away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Here, three vices are mentioned that may be exhibited by others, which will harm me. This is why I am seeking God's protection against them, isn't it? So and again, the order came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in the beginning, the Prophet was ordered to seek the protection of God from all of creation. Now, what are we seeking the protection of God from all of creation about? In three ways. In the evil of the dark night. Yeah? Now again, what is meant by dark night are those plotters, connivers, schemers, who come out and try to have an agenda against us, who try to misguide us. It doesn't have to happen at night. Yeah? So don't look out for these only at night. It can happen right at daytime in front of our faces as well. But here God is describing a form of evil. Okay? So the first evil is of the dark night. And again, this means those who plot or scheme and connive against us. From the evil of those who blow on knots. Yeah? What this means is that those who claim to mean you well, but in fact mean you harm. Yeah? So they're blowing on you gently, making you feel nice, making you feel comfortable. Yeah? But in fact, they have their own agenda and they're trying to cause you harm by misguiding. And the third is the evil of those who are jealous. Yeah? Of those who are jealous of your position, are jealous of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. So these three things are considered to be the source of the harm that can come towards us, and we need to seek the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from this. When we look at the tragedy of Karbala, we see these three different forms being exhibited. Yeah? You have those who are plotters and schemers and connivers like Ibn Ziyad, yeah, who had to wear a disguise to come into the city of Kufa and misguide and scheme against the people just to take control of that city. You have people who used to act like they meant the Imam well, but were actually plotting against the Imam, like the governor of Medina, who came to the Imam and offered him and gently offered the allegiance of Yazid for the Imam to take, as if he was meaning the Imam well, but in fact obviously he was meaning the Imam harm. And of course those who are jealous of the position of the Imam, yeah? The position that God had given them, like Yazid, yeah? Like Muawiyah, all of these people who claim that this was not the religion of God, but it was a man-made thing. We are in the ayam between the first date and the last date, inshallah, which we will be doing next week, of the ayam of Fatimiyya, yeah? Where we remember the mazlumiyat of Fatima alayhi salam. And inshallah we'll spend 4 lectures here with a visiting speaker discussing the life and the merits of this great personality. When we think of Fatima, our hearts automatically begin to weep, don't they? Our hearts automatically begin to hurt when just the name Fatima is mentioned. Yeah? When we look at what is zulm, who is mazloom, there has never been a personality who has been more mazloom in the course of her life and remains mazlooma till today like Fatima alayhi salam. Yeah? At the time of Rasulullah, she was mazlooma, and until today she is mazlooma, that we cannot go and even pay respects to the grave of Fatima. It is said that when Fatima alayhi salam came to the bedside of Rasulullah when he was in his last days of life, he saw that Fatima was crying when she came to him, and he said to her, Ya binta Muhammad, oh the daughter of Muhammad, why are you crying? Why are there tears in your eyes? She says, do not worry, for the zulm that you will be facing will be handled and be recompensed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She says, Ya abata, I am not crying at this, yet I am crying because I cannot bear to be apart from you, Ya abata. I cannot bear to not to live without you, Ya Rasulullah. It is said the Prophet embraces Fatima and he says, Fatima, shall I tell you a secret? She says, yes, Abata, tell me the secret. She says, Fatima, you will be the first one to join me from the Ahlul Bayt. You will be the first one to come to me, Fatima. The time we will be apart will not be long. It is said he called Ali and called Hassan and Hussein next to him. He embraced each and every one of them. He told each one that you will be going through difficulty after me, but the first one to undergo that difficulty will be Fatima. For as soon as Rasulullah passes away, it is said the enemies of Islam surrounded the house of Fatima. The enemies of Islam burned the house of Fatima. The enemies of Islam kicked down the door of Fatima. And it is these enemies of Islam who slapped those cheeks which Rasulullah used to kiss with such love and compassion. فَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ وَالْعَاقِبَةُ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the return of our living Imam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for those who are going through difficulty that He end their difficulty. For those who have asked us to remember them in our prayers, Ya Allah, please accept their hajat. And for those who are going for ziyarat, Ya Allah, please accept their ziyarat and bring them back home safely, inshaAllah. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم والحمد لله رب العالمين. رحم الله من قرأ سورة المباركة الفاتحة تسبقها الصلاة على محمد وآل محمد.